A history of PlayStation. The PlayStation brand, as we know of today, is one of the most successful gaming consoles of all time, selling over 500 million total units as of 2022. The PlayStation was one of the first consoles that brought 3D gaming into homes across the world. Now, sit back, grab a snack, and a nice refreshing drink, and let's go over the history of PlayStation. Ken Kutaragi, who was born August 2nd, 1950, in Tokyo, Japan, started his career at Sony in 1975, right after graduation. He started off as a researcher with the company and would work his way up the corporate ladder. In the 1980s. Yes, the 80s. The era that brought rock music to the forefront, like AC/DC, Aerosmith, Red Hot Chili Peppers. Don't forget about Rick James. Also, the growing music genre known as hip-hop. I'm talking Run DMC and NWA. Oh, don't forget about the Karate Kid movies, like Karate Kid Part 1 and wait, this story starts in Japan. Let me go back. The 1980s. Japan. In the 80s, Japan saw the rise of J-pop genre in artists such as Akina Nakamori, Minako Honda, and a few others. In terms of anime, Akira was released, which was one of the greatest anime movies of all time. Also, Dragon Ball series was released as well. Vampire the Hunter. Vampire Batman. Sorry, back to Sony. According to PlayStationMuseum.com, in 1984, while attending a presentation at Sony's Information Processing Research Center, Ken Kutaragi was amazed by Sony's System G, a workstation that provided TV broadcasts, 3D computer graphics in real time. Kutaragi envisioned providing this high level of 3D computer graphics to console gaming. At some point in the 80s, he watched his daughter play a Nintendo, or Famicom, and realized the possibilities of video games and how they could benefit people. He shared his beliefs with Sony executives who dismissed gaming consoles as toys. However, he would eventually convince them to let him work on a gaming console. The 1990s. Yeah, welcome to the 90s. The era that brought you Ninja Turtles, Darkwing Duck, Let's Get Dangerous, Power Rangers, It's Morphin' Time. Good old nostalgia. Back to Sony. In 1991, Kutaragi was named manager of the PlayStation project. Originally, the PlayStation was going to be a joint project with Nintendo. However, things would change later on. During the 1991 Consumer Electronics Show, Sony proudly announced that it was partnering with Nintendo to release the SNES CD-ROM PlayStation add-on, and several games were already in development. However, later in the show, Nintendo contradicted Sony's announcement by publicly announcing a separate deal with Philips to release a CDI add-on for the SNES or Super Nintendo at that time. Kutaragi was pissed. This would set the man on a course to build and deliver one of the greatest gaming consoles of all time. I mean, Kutaragi was working on that PlayStation like Goku training at 100 times his gravity. In December of '94, the PlayStation was released in Japan. In 1995, the PlayStation game console was introduced in the United States. In the very first weekend, more than 100,000 units were sold. In the first 6 months, over 1 million units were sold. Some of the first PlayStation games would be Air Combat, Twisted Metal, and Tekken. Honorable mentions include Crash Bandicoot, where the main character looks like an addict, and they wonder why our generation is hooked on pills. Don't forget about Tomb Raider and her goods. Back to the story. In 1999, After PlayStation's success, Kutaragi was promoted to president and CEO of Sony Computer Entertainment, the subsidiary responsible for the PlayStation. And by the end of the console wars, PlayStation 1 sold 102 million units, compared to Nintendo 64's 32 million units. And yet, PlayStation was just getting started. The 2000s. The 2000s, where things get raunchy, with movies like American Pie 2, Old School, How High, don't forget about Anchorman, Sex Panther by Odeon, and rap stars like 50 Cent, Eminem, and Dr. Dre. And don't you ever forget about Dr. Dre. Back to the video. In 2000, the PlayStation 2 was released. In Japan in March, in North America in October. The PlayStation 2 revolutionized console gaming by offering a built-in DVD player, which allowed for people to play movies. This was before you could stream movies online like today. And it allowed for you to play original PlayStation games, which was unheard of back then. Because of this revolutionary technology, PS2 is one of the best-selling consoles ever. As of 2013, when they stopped producing them, it is estimated that they had sold over 150 million units. Honorable game mentions include Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, where you commit epic levels of violence against humanity. Devil May Cry, where you commit epic levels of violence against demons. God of War, where you commit epic levels of violence against the gods. And by the end of each game, you realize that violence is always the answer. Moving on. In 2006, PlayStation 3 was released, and it offered a built-in Blu-ray player. This allowed for higher quality graphics for games and movies. It also had impressive hardware with a custom-designed cell processor, which was a joint development by Sony, Toshiba, and IBM. And its graphics card was built by NVIDIA. Also, was the first console to offer the ability to go online and interact with other players during gameplay, or in other words, talk sh**. Some of the best-selling games were Grand Theft Auto 5, NPC violence, The Last of Us, zombie violence, and Batman Arkham City, where you're a billionaire beating on mental patients with violence. The 2010s. In the 2010s, we saw the rise of music streaming services like Spotify, SoundCloud, and Apple Music. Now young rappers could sell their shitty mixtapes to you from their phones. Great. And you can no longer use the excuse that you don't have any cash, because they have Apple Pay and Cash App now, and you have a credit card that they can use to scan to make you purchase their mixtape. Moving on. PlayStation 4 was released on November 15th, 2013 in the United States, and Sony was not playing around when they made the PS4. This thing has an AMD processor in it. They also marked the price down to $399, compared to Xbox One's $499. And within a 24-hour time span, they sold 1 million units. Let's see, some of the best-selling games include Ghost of Tsushima, Samurai Violence, Red Dead Redemption 2, where you can act out your frustrations against the opposite sex. Also, is there a race of people you don't like? Great. Show them how you truly feel. And Nier Automata. If you're frustrated about robots taking your job, well, you know what to do. "2020, the year that can be summed up in 3 words. Where's your mask? Don't forget about the summer of violence. And back to the video. PlayStation 5 was released on November 12, 2020, and it was a massive hit. Stores across the world ran out of stock, and Sony couldn't keep up with the demand due to the global chip shortage in 2020. However, there's still much left to see in terms of sales performance, as the system has only been out for 3 years as of today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and if you want to see more content,